Jaecoo Malaysia today aims to confuse the market by previewing this, the Omoda C9, which they categorize as a D-segment SUV coupe, which will come in at 185,000 ringgit, or so they claim. This pretty-looking thing not only aims to provide the performance on the road, but also off-road, which is why it is positioned as a Jaecoo Malaysia product. So let's find out everything there is to know. My name is AIMAN ABDULLAH, this is Malaysian Motoring, and this is our media preview of the Omoda C9. Now, being an SUV coupe, it does mean that the Omoda C9 has to have a decent amount of firepower under the bonnet, and it certainly claims to do so. Because underneath this metalwork, you'll find a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbocharged engine producing 257 horsepower and 400 Newton meters of torque. That power can go to all 4 wheels, or just 2, via an 8-speed automatic gearbox. As a result, that does mean that this car has the go to match the looks, which is certainly what you'd expect from a car within this segment. Speaking of which, the Omoda C9 sits as a D-segment SUV, which means that it will be competing against vehicles like the Mazda CX-8, etc., etc. And as a result, it does mean that this car does have some pretty heady and heavy competition, but again, its estimated pricing starting at 185,000 ringgit should mean that it will be quite competitive when it arrives. Being a D-segment SUV, the Omoda C9 is clearly very large with a surprisingly long wheelbase, which should mean that there is decent legroom for passengers in the rear. Now, Jaecoo Malaysia is keen to point out that because this is a premium off-road SUV, there are some premium touches here. For example, rolling stock is handled by a set of 20-inch alloy wheels wrapped in Michelin Primacy tyres. You also get the flush door handles that we've seen before from the brand, and it's got this very coupe-like roofline as emblematic by the floating roof as well as the darkened out D-pillars. Now, if you ask me, I do think the Omoda C9 is a pretty good-looking car, again, fitting for the price point and the positioning that the brand has in mind. But again, this is only 185 grand. Now, despite that coupe-like roofline, it culminates in this very dynamic-looking rear set off by the full-width LED taillights, which also do a little bit of an animation every time you lock and unlock the car. For the first time, we're also seeing the Omoda scripting within this sort of Perspex housing, which I think does look quite nice. And of course, you also get a set of quad exhaust pipes, functional at that, again, because this car is meant to have a dynamic bend to it. Now, despite this being a coupe, or at least what they claim to be a coupe, there is a pretty good amount of space in the rear. While an exact figure was not provided, this is certainly large enough for 5 people's worth of luggage, and there is also a tonneau cover to keep everything nice and hidden. And underneath the boot floor, you will find a full-size spare wheel, which is again in keeping with this car's adventure bend, which means that if you are out touring, if you're out on a long journey, you don't have to wait for a tow truck should the worst happen. Which again, at the end of the day, does mean that this is in line with what Jaecoo positions itself as a brand. All of that size outside certainly pays dividends in here, because this is certainly the largest Chery/Jaecoo model that we've seen so far. Being a D-segment SUV, it means that this car is quite wide, and that is also further underscored by this car's interior design. You have a full-width air conditioning vent that stretches from one door all the way to the other, again, to draw the eye to the horizontal lines within this car. It is also further enhanced by the twin digital displays up ahead, which Jaecoo Malaysia says have now been upgraded to full 1080p HD units with better pixel density and response times than ever before. Now, interacting with those screens will reveal the fact that the processors on this car have also been upgraded, which means that the interface is now snappier and better to look at and better to interact with than ever before. As a result, it does mean that this certainly feels like a much more premium experience even compared to the Jaecoo J7. Further enhancing that is the use of materials within this car, where you can see there's a lot of stitched leather used about the place, even on this center console, something that is unheard of unless you're in a proper premium luxury vehicle. The same goes for the buttons and switchgear in here, with the choice of materials, the choice of buttons, and the choice of how you interact with the car, again, speaking to this car's tactility, something that is not usually seen within the sub 200,000 ringgit space. In terms of practicality, you have naturally the floating center console, which creates this very cocoon-like space with more space underneath the console itself. Behind this very large panel of plastic wood. You'll find a couple of cup holders and a felt-lined bin here in order for you to keep more items, which you can actually lift in order to reveal even more space underneath. You have a cooled center glove box, again something that we've seen many times before from Chery and Jaecoo models. And for the very first time, we also get an electrically adjustable steering wheel. Again, this is 185,000 ringgit. We also get paddle shifters, more buttons here, and the design within this car is certainly unique to this model. We have not seen an interior like this on anything from Chery or Jaecoo before, which does bode very well, again, for 185,000 ringgit. Both front seats are powered, heated and ventilated with the seat adjustment on the doors, very much like a Mercedes-Benz. You get an ambient lighting system in here, which can pulsate according to speed, apparently, or you can just change it between the 64 ambient colors that you can choose from. There is also a 14-speaker audio system in here provided by Sony, replete with a set of speakers within the headrest itself in order to convey navigation instructions as well as phone calls. This is quite innovative. Also, this very dark interior at least is set off by the full-size panoramic sunroof, replete with an opening function and electric sunblind. All very nice. Now, being a D-segment SUV, again, space is clearly a very critical component, which is why with the front seat set at my driving position, I'm about 170 centimeters, I have a good amount of knee room and a pretty good amount of headroom, again, despite that standard fit sunroof and that coupe-like roofline. So life back here is pretty good. Under thigh support, if you can see from this angle, may not appear that great, but I can tuck my feet in underneath the seat in front of me, allowing me even more support. Additionally, these seats are actually electrically adjustable, which means that if I want to sit a little bit more upright, I can just push this button here in order to sit a little bit more upright, or I can lean it back for a little bit more comfort. In addition to that, I also have my own climate zone back here with a single central vent here and more vents on the B-pillar, all of which again feed to this car's premium appeal. All things that we'd certainly like to see. Now, there are obviously pockets in the back of the seat as well as in the doors. You get a deployable center armrest with cup holders, you get BOSS switches for the front seat, as well as a couple of USB ports in the center console. So as far as I'm concerned, this certainly does feel premium indeed. Now, being a modern Chery, Omoda, Jaecoo product, safety is a clear focus on this car, which is why it comes with the ADAS 2.5 functionalities that we've come to expect from the brand. That means you should expect things like autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection, adaptive cruise control with traffic jam assist, lane keep assist, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, a 540-degree camera system which allows you to see underneath the car as you're moving along, etc., etc., as well as that new eye tracking system which is available behind the steering wheel, which I generally don't like. But that should mean that this should be a pretty decently safe car. Jaecoo Malaysia also assures that these vehicles will be subject to ASEAN NCAP testing in the near future, which means that you can be reassured further by that safety test. Now, in terms of pricing, at the moment it is only speculative at 185,000 ringgit for the two-wheel drive model and 195,000 ringgit for the all-wheel drive model. But again, as we've seen from Jaecoo Malaysia in the past, their estimated pricing is usually quite a bit higher than the actual final retail price. As a result, this car might be even more attractively priced than what they're suggesting now, although again, 185,000 ringgit starting price does seem pretty good indeed. They also assure that all Omoda C9s will come with the same sort of warranty package that we've seen from Jaecoo Malaysia, but it will be branded differently because this is now a Omoda. It is also worth bearing in mind that these cars will be sold exclusively through Jaecoo dealerships, not Chery. We understand that's confusing. The servicing will also take place only at Jaecoo, not Chery. So if you are just as confused as I am, please let me know in the comments section below and let us know what you think about not only the new Omoda C9, but also the way they're positioning these cars, because it is a little bit confusing. In any case, that concludes our media preview of the Omoda C9. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell icon so notified every time we make a new upload. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and you can join our new WhatsApp channel. All the links are in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Take care and stay safe.